I am Neil.
I'm Veronica. We fell in love when we were 16, and here we are talking about what life is all about for us. Thank you for joining us.
This is a Life Is podcast with Neil and Veronica. Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Life Is with Neil and Veronica. I'm Neil.
I'm Veronica.
And today, or how this show I guess is going to work, is we're going to have a bunch of topics about, what we feel, what we experience, what we go through in life. And really, I'm just going to shout out a topic about life. And Veronica kind of usually doesn't have an idea of what we're going to talk about because she's very spontaneous when it comes to her thoughts. I'm more planned. I like to have things written down. But in today's first episode, what we'd like to talk about is life is about having a vision. And so what sparked this conversation earlier this evening was a video that you had sent me that you found and sort of inspired you to have a conversation about planning, setting a vision or a goal for the upcoming year in 2023 as we wind down these last few days of 2022. So why don't you just sort of share how you found the video and sort of your thoughts and why you thought that resonated with you.
Okay, let's do it. So first of all, I'm so excited that this is happening. I know we've been talking about it for a while, and I love that this is happening and we're not starting on January 1st, or we're not waiting for a date. We just said, let's just go, let's just do it. And for those that are listening, we have 3 little ones. They are 3, 5, and 8, soon to be 4, 6, and 8. They're all sleeping right now, and it's late at night. And sometimes this is just what happens. So we're parents. We each have our own individual story. We have our own story that we're building together. And we say, in our intro and in the description, we fell in love at 16. And kind of here we are. And this is what this podcast is about, is a glimpse into our conversations that we have also. Because we've been saying this for a while, like, oh, I wish we could share this more with others. I wish that we could share these conversations with other people. And I'm really glad that we're doing this. So I just wanted to take a moment to say that. And, there's probably going to be an episode that we do that gives a little bit more of a glimpse into our background, who we are as individuals, who we are as a couple, who we are as parents. And so that's really also what this is all about. So let's jump back into life is about having a vision. So I think because we're nearing the end of 2022, because we're nearing the end of a year, in a sense, like it's December, Christmas is upon us. Our date-iversary is tomorrow, which is also exciting.
It's
today. Oh my gosh, it's midnight. It's past midnight.
Yeah. So we're officially starting our podcast 21 years to the day that we started our journey. It's funny because we tried to record this earlier, it didn't work out. And we're like, let's do it again. Like, we have to get this done tonight. And it just so happens that, we've passed into officially 21 years, and we're starting this 21 years later. So yeah, here we are.
Happy date-iversary.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we said, let's do this again. So we did. As Neil mentioned, we tried to record this. We felt really good about it. It was really exciting, and sometimes things happen in life. And here we are again. We're like, our energy is still here. We're very excited about it. Let's do it again. Because the first recording honestly didn't work out. We wish that we could have shared it with you, but this is also about what life is about. You learn, and here we are. We're giving it another try. So back to the kitchen conversation. A lot of our conversations take place in the kitchen, or we're washing dishes. I say we. Neil is amazing. He loves washing dishes, don't you?
I do. I just find it peaceful. I do a lot of my thinking while I'm doing it. So
yeah. And Neil usually has headphones on actually and is listening to a lot of podcasts. So we were in the kitchen, having conversations and talking about having a vision. And I won't steal your spotlight because I really want you to be able to talk about what your vision is and like the terms that you coined in talking about your vision. But there's a lot of things that are surrounding us. There's things that are surrounding us in our jobs, in our day jobs, in our side jobs. And everyone is talking about, the 2023 vision, casting that vision and what that means. So a friend of mine actually sent me a video today about what that is for 2023. It really went hand in hand with also, we had a vision board meeting today with some of like the people in my community. And we talked about that. I have actually never had a vision board before. So I went kind of, as a sponge to soak it all up. And what really resonated with me in the video is talking, not really talking to your future self, but almost putting yourself in that moment, like a year from now.
Big time.
And telling yourself like how it felt when you accomplished all of these big dreams. What did it feel like when, and she said in the video, when you stepped foot on that balcony of that trip that you earned. And I mean, we're really fortunate. I've already earned a trip for us to travel next year already. So that's something to look forward to for sure. But that doesn't mean that the dreams stop, right? It's all about dreaming big. And I love that term. She and I'll give her a shout out. I love her to pieces. Her name is Danielle. So we talk very often about thinking big. And I love that term because I didn't realize that there was something such as thinking small in a sense. But I think that we give ourselves what we think is a protective mechanism.
Totally protective. Yeah.
It's not protective though, but it's almost like, we protect, I'm doing air quotes, probably not properly to those that are listening and can't see us, to protect ourselves because we don't want to set ourselves up for disappointment almost. So
Fear
you
of
have,
failure.
yes, so you have this little passion inside of you. Your instinct, I think everyone's instinct is to dream big though, right? Is to have that really big goal. And then all of a sudden we pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
And we tell ourselves, nope, scale that down because there's that either voice of self-doubt or there are external voices in our life that, tear us down instead of building us up. And I love that in this past year, I've really leaned into those people who have picked me up, who have lifted me up, and to really go for dreaming big and have that belief. And that's one thing that I've really kind of, adopted almost is, if there are people around me that believe so hard and so big in me being able to achieve that, that fired me right up. I was like, let's do it then. And giving yourself that vision, right? Don't listen to those voices of self-doubt because we all have them. But it was about, making it really tangible. What does it feel like to hit those goals when you're there? And I love thinking about all the steps of getting there too.
Yeah. And one other thing they talk about when it comes to goal setting or vision boards or whatever you use to, put your eyes on where you're going is also really thinking about what roadblocks you're going to hit, right? Like what is going to maybe get in your way, but then how are you going to overcome it, right? Something could happen with, the kids being sick for whatever reason, they're home from school. You know what? Well, I'm just going to push that until another time. But it's knowing that things are going to happen, life happens, right? And knowing that you can push through them and overcome them. And I think what I've also come to realize and think about is think about our kids or your kids or kids you've seen. They always dream big. You ask them, hey, what would you like? And they come up with the most biggest, grandest thing sometimes. And we've always had that in us. And along the way, as we grow up, whether it's the school system, people we've met, our jobs, things get chipped away at us, right? It just happens where we're young, ambitious kids, and we have this, dream of whatever we want to do, and things happen. But we can still dream big. We need to dream big to be able to achieve our greatest selves. And that's definitely, I think, if not one of the biggest things that you've learned, I've learned, and we've tried to hold on to this past year in 2022 and carry it
Mhm.
through into
Mhm.
2023 and beyond. Absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing when you mentioned the roadblocks and, a term that really resonated with me or a quote. And so to those that are listening, if you don't know me well already, I really surround myself in quotes. I always have. There's just something when I read something, I'm like, ooh, I feel all the feels, or it just really resonates with me. And, I kind of joke that, I used to put them like all over my walls and post-it notes. And now I actually have tattoos of them on my body. But one that really resonated was where you stare is where you steer.
Yep.
And we learned that practically in driving school. And it's true. And so there's something about that you mentioned. I mean, yes, like name some of those roadblocks, but you're not going to stare at them. You
Nope.
name them because you realize that they're there or that they can be there, you know, and, in project management, it's about like risk mitigation and stuff too.
Yep.
But and maybe you're really good at explaining this analogy, but, when you're looking forward and you punch in that destination in the GPS or, what is your North Star kind of thing, like what direction are you going in? You keep going in that direction, facing that vision of your big dreams. And I think I want to kind of move over to what you mentioned in the kitchen. And
Yep.
I had like just that moment of like, wow, when you were talking about your vision. So if we could talk about what you mentioned.
Yeah. So obviously, December brings a lot of planning and chaos sometimes between the holidays and setting yourself for a new year. So, in that time of reflection, I'm like, okay, what do I want to achieve? I think that this year I've done a lot of growth. I've done a lot of development. So have you. So have we together. And I'm like, okay, this year, I really want to set myself up in three areas, personally, and as a family and as a couple. So for me, I'm working on my plan for 2023, and the three areas that I want to work on are my health, myself, and my wealth. And those three key areas, I think anybody can hold on to. They can see where they can make improvements, where they can take it to the next level, wherever it may be. But those three things, if you pick one, two, or all three, and you start to really make a vision, make a goal, it's gonna make an impact on your year. And I really think that having that laid out and going through this exercise that we're going to do where we sit thinking like this is December 31st, 2023. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be, my best self? What does it feel like to be in great health? What does it feel like to have wealth? And, obviously wealth can mean so many different things. It can mean financial. It can mean abundance of time with your family, because time, we've always talked about this. It's a resource that you and I have. We have the same amount. Nobody can get any more. So you really got to make the most of it. So for me, that's sort of hearing that video propelled that conversation to bring that up about these categories are where my focus is going to be. And now I'm looking forward to, sitting there. What does it feel like? What is it impact? What is who are we surrounded with? Where are we sitting? Maybe we're not even sitting in our house in December 31st, 2023. I don't know yet. But yeah, that's where we're headed.
So I know I'm curious, and maybe those that are listening to us are curious. Do you want to share some specifics around some of those?
Yeah, like for me, I think health-wise. You know, there's a lot of natural products like supplements that I'm looking to incorporate into my routine. And it's just finding foods. And it's funny because it's part of one of the books I'm reading. Um, Finding foods and things that we eat and drink that I love, but also love me back, right? So you have to have that relationship where it helps you. Self-wise, I set a goal last year or this year, 2022, about self-development and reading. I really got back into reading. So I had set a number of 20 books. I surpassed that. I did 25. So I think, for me, the next step is to really build this community, and through that community, develop myself and being able to teach what I've learned, because teaching and being able to talk about it helps me and helps anybody retain that information and really live it day to day. And I think wealth, for me, it's just being able to build up enough of an income between us to buy time for our family, right? To buy that freedom to do what we want, whether it's travel experiences, whether it's just being able to do what we want when we want. That's the ultimate wealth for me. So no specifics other than that. I mean, those are some specifics, but there really needs to be, like we said, a roadmap of, what's that feeling like at the end, and how am I going to get there, and what roadblocks do I see? So I guess for you, obviously you had a vision meeting for one of your passions and community. Do you have anything right now that you want to share about your vision heading into next year, or are you still in planning mode?
Well, I'm still in planning mode for sure, but I just want to reflect on what you shared too, because I feel like as your partner in life, like it's so beautiful to hear some of those things. And, for those listening to, in the journey that we're on, and this is what also this podcast is about too, right? Life is also a journey. Absolutely. But I love seeing you read your books. I think that that's amazing. Something like you always either have headphones on or you're listening to a podcast, and to see the self-development that you've done is really amazing. And you have taught me so much in this past year too, which has been absolutely incredible. I mean, the year's not over yet. You could surpass your goal even more with reading books. But I just want to thank you for everything that you've learned or absorbed, or, things that have resonated with you. Because another reason why I think we've started this podcast is we have, these snippets of conversations, or sometimes we get into more in-depth conversations. And I hope that something that you say resonates with someone out there as much as it does with me on a daily basis. I feel very fortunate that you get to share your wisdom with me and the things that you learn, because it definitely has made me a better person in the last year too. So I wanted to thank you for that. But going back to your question about vision for next year, is I love those 3 buckets that you identified. And I think I also love them even more because they rhyme.
I knew you would. I knew you would. And it's just, I don't know how it came to me, but it was, I think it was just a little bit of you, coming out in me when I was like thinking, I'm like, I knew you
Well,
would.
when you said that in the kitchen, so, no one was here. We weren't recording or anything like that. But I think it was a mic drop moment for me.
You ran to your phone. You're like, we need to record. That's okay. That was the moment that changed everything. Yeah.
Well, I also asked you, I said, did you hear that somewhere? Or you got to trademark.
No, I hear a lot of things. That one, I can say was a self-generated idea. Yeah, I do pick up on a lot of things. I do, mix a lot of what I
I
hear
love
into my life. I pick up here
that.
and there pieces that resonate with me, and I merge them with your thoughts because um, they're so great, right? Like I think that's what we do really well is, we share thoughts and okay, does this work for us? Does it not work for us? Or how can it work for us? But yeah, no, that one 100% all me.
I like to think that we complement one another. But I really love those three buckets. And something I want to continue into 2023 is that focus on health and self. And, I want to say to the listeners out there also that might resonate from a mom role or, any parenting role, but one where the mental load is really heavy is often we think we're doing everyone else a favor around us when we're not focusing on ourselves, when our health and ourself, it doesn't come number one. And something that I've learned is if I focus on myself, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm taking away the focus from others or from our kids. And I love that you said health, self, and wealth. Was that the three
Yeah.
buckets that you said? So there's something about the number three. And it was funny when I was thinking about this. I'm like, yeah, we also had three kiddos and here we are as a party of five. But I was just sharing the other day that, something that resonated with me a while back when I was reading one of the books when I felt like I was in one of the tough spots in my motherhood journey and our parenting journey and our my postpartum journey, is I can get so overwhelmed with things. And when I learned that, let's write down three things a day. That is my goal, to do that every day. And it really focuses in. And so I love these three buckets that you've mentioned too. So going back to my answer, I feel like I've circled around a few times on some things, which is typical me. For those of you that know me, you're probably laughing right now and you're like, yep, that's a Veronica moment right there, is focusing on myself and my health. And, you've mentioned this before, is investing in ourselves as individuals too, because we're worth it. You can't put a price tag on health. And oftentimes, you and I are talking about budget and, this and that. And I think that we're also fortunate and in a spot where for me, myself, I'm able to invest in, some products that work for me, that, contribute to my health and wellness. And you've seen my health journey just since July. I feel like that's also another podcast in and of itself. But a lot of times, and again, going back to kind of that mental load, the motherhood role, we feel guilty because we feel like we're taking away. And something that we talked about in the previous recording of the podcast that didn't work out is, that the narrative, it's about changing the narrative in conversations and the culture that often it's almost a reflex. I feel like of, an example that we talked about is, how sometimes people talk about the weather. In the summer, it's always too hot. In the winter, there's always too much snow or it's too cold.
Yeah.
And it is the first thing that comes up in conversation. So we talked about how it's about changing that narrative and celebrating wins and cheering each other on. And similarly to when I mentioned, when you focus on yourself, it doesn't mean that you're taking away from others. It's almost the same thing as when you're celebrating somebody else in their win, in their journey, in their dreaming big. It doesn't mean that you're failing.
No. And I think one thing that I've learned and I've had the opportunity to hear people conversate is when you talk about, your successes or you talk about something that you're proud of, it opens the door and allows people to feel more comfortable to talk about themselves, right? Until you are the one to initiate that, people don't want to be like that. So if you're the one that says, hey, you know what, this was super great, or whatever that win is for you, that's an invitation to them to share. And I think the more we share on these wins together, whatever that conversation looks like, is a huge game changer moving forward, not only for relationships, friendships, parent and kid relationships. It's just, it needs to change because it's, even though it's about you, it's not about you. It's about lifting each other up, like we keep talking about.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about consistency. And in dreaming big, I think it's also, there's something to be said about like not doing, I don't want to say doing small, but it's about, you know, being consistent, and those small steps all add up. You string them all together and you get to where you were dreaming big, or where you are dreaming big, and you want to get to.
I know you love quotes, but
yes,
the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, right? Like, take that first step, and you just have to put one foot in front of the other, and you just have to take that next step every time, and eventually you'll reach your destination. That vision that you're going to cast, that we're going to cast, that we'll probably share, you know, throughout this year. So yeah, I totally am grateful that you sent that video today, because without that video, this conversation would not have happened. This podcast would not have started on our 21-year anniversary of being together. And it's just, again, that serendipitous, whatever the, you know, another conversation we'll have on the universe putting things out there for us, right? So
and it's about meeting these people though too, and like these synchronicities that we've talked about. I feel like I interrupted you there.
No, that's the word I was looking for though. But yeah, it's the synchronicities, right?
Yeah, because I want to talk about also, like, I want to mention Glenn, who has come into my life through Krista. Like, we've just, you know, all these people, and I hope that they get a chance to listen to this. But this also started, and this name started because Glenn and I had a conversation together about this too. And, you know, when you think about it's almost like when you think of it, when you backtrack almost and you think about all these things, it's just, sometimes I sit here in these moments, and overall, so much gratitude for everything. And I think that that's a good like shift in a frame of mind. And I mean, we can get into this in another podcast of like the difference between
very good at foreshadowing our conversation.
Like toxic positivity, which is something we also learned in the last few years, right? The difference between that and the difference between like acknowledging gratitude and, you know, being in that space. But I love that you shared the self, health, wealth, or health, self, wealth.
Whatever order you want to put it in.
Yeah. And I hope that resonates with others too. So, you know, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us in this podcast, this journey of what life is for us. You know, two high schoolers that fell in love and are building a life together one moment at a time. You know, we're parents to 3. And we're going to get into other episodes, I think, where we talk about, as I mentioned, like us as individuals. And I'm just filled with so much gratitude, you know, and even let's say nobody listens to this, even having set aside some time with conversations with you is very meaningful to me. So, I mean, hopefully things resonate with others out there that are listening. And I can't wait to build this community.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that this is, you know, one of the things we've talked about this past year that is going to become part of our vision, you know, to come full circle for 2023. And yeah, I'm very thankful to the community that pushed us to do this. I'm thankful for a lot of things, but as we wrap up this first episode of our podcast, I really just want to take the time to, as you said, thank everybody, any followers, anybody that subscribes, that, you know, can leave a review, and to share this with people that you think it would resonate with. If there's one thing that you said, hey, I think this person would really benefit from hearing this, please let them know. We love to share our you know, growth and journey to a community and really have that reciprocate back to us. So as we end this one, anything else you want to say to
Did you hear me take that breath?
Yeah.
You know me so well by now. I do want to leave kind of, I guess, like with this parting thought as we're closing up too, is when you dream big, like we mentioned, right? There's, sometimes that voice of doubt, there's external voices too. But when you're dreaming big, if ever you feel like, you know, that dream is too big or you don't believe in yourself or whatever that moment is, there's always someone in your life that is cheering you on that will say to you, yes, you're going to get there. I'm going to cheer you on. And it's leaning into those people in your life because I think everybody has at least one. I'm fortunate that, you're by my side and I'm by yours and you are my partner in life with this. And I know that you're always cheering me on. And it's amazing now also being connected to others in life where, and even in conversations, I will have that doubt a little bit. And like, they can sense it and they'll be like, it's okay, Veronica. You can say that big dream out loud. And so I want everyone to know that. Be like, if I was talking to you, I would say, Neil, it's okay to say that big dream out loud or, insert your name there because it is. And write it down. Write it down. Even if you don't share it at first, write it on that piece of paper, fold it up, put it somewhere, but share it out loud because other people want to know and they want to cheer you on.
Yeah.
So
And
do it.
Write it down, if you write it down and you don't share with anybody, and you've made it this far to the first episode, just know that Veronica and I are your cheerleaders, and we will build that community that will also cheer you on. So thank you for listening. We appreciate everyone here. We are grateful for this opportunity, and we look forward to more of them. Thank you.